Hello, and welcome to the League of Legends Strategy Guide. This time we're covering the lone vanguard of the Rift, the top lane. In the top lane, there are two types to choose from, the bruiser and the tank. When playing top lane, all you focus on is staying in your lane and farming. Okay, there's more than that, but that's essentially the basics. In the top lane, it's important to keep farming while bullying the other laner in order to scale into the late game. As the top, you're the big gun for later, the secret weapon that'll be impossible to kill while destroying everyone on the other team. As the tank, you are the backbone and front line of the team. You take all the damage so that the carries on your team don't have to. Surprisingly, they also do a harsh amount of damage. Garen is the ideal tank. He's one of the original champions in the game and can absorb damage like no one's business. His passive gives him out-of-combat healing, so it's best to build a Warmogs into Spirit Visage early to get that juicy passive healing. When you're in lane, it's not too big of a deal what ability you pick to start out with, but I prefer starting with his Q. It gives him a burst of movement speed, so if you're taking too much damage early, you have a sort of getaway. It helps to last hit some minions for farming, and it has a silence, stopping the first enemy hit from using abilities for a bit. His W is his spin to win. You activate it and Garen turns into a Beyblade and is able to crit whenever he hits an enemy with it. And you gain a rotation for every level you put into the ability. Now his ult is what makes him dangerous. Garen has a bit of a hero complex, so when he gets his ult, a champion on the enemy team with the most recent kill becomes the villain, and Garen does bonus true damage to them. Nasus is a monster top lane. His main goal of the game is to ignore the rest of the map completely and farm. When mid-game rolls around and he's gotten your tier 2 top tower, you realize that you made a horrible mistake by leaving him to farm, and now he's got about 500 stacks and will half health you with a single Q. He's a force to be reckoned with, and you better pray you can get all 5 members of your team up top lane in order to kill him, or so help you God you will feel his wrath. His passive is lifesteal. Simple enough. His Q gives him 3 stacks of just more damage on his next Q. Again, simple. His W withers an enemy, slowing their movement speed and attack speed. He drops a circle with his E, which does damage over time, and his ult makes him go into big mode. He turns into a big Nas doggy dog and will absolutely obliterate you. He gains more attack range, more health over time, and has a sandstorm around him that damages enemies and gains armor and magic resist. Where tanks take the damage, bruisers dish it out. They're the best of both worlds for top lane and are actually able to help in teamfights later because of their terrifying high damage output. They're the types that if you don't focus on them too much can snowball and really end up hurting. Olaf is a fun champ that has some built-in attack speed, but for a price. For every 1% of his health missing, he gains 1% of attack speed. His Q is probably the most difficult ability in the game. Now I'll try to explain this to you, but there are a lot of numbers factored into this, and it will take some time to explain. He throws an axe at you. He can pick it up to reduce the cooldown. Now that we got that frustrating explanation out of the way, the rest of his abilities. His W gives you bonus attack speed for a few seconds, while also giving you some lifesteal whenever you hit an enemy. This ability is great for taking down towers and trying to get back to health if you didn't do so well in the trade. When you're attacking the enemy, your E is a good source of true damage. Olaf calls down a bolt of lightning and then he will bring down the hammer. I mean axe. The only problem is that the bolt of lightning is so powerful, it does damage to his enemy and himself. But his health is refunded so as long as the ability destroys the target. Now his ult is pretty interesting. It works kind of like a Quicksilver Sash in the way that it removes negative status effects on Olaf, temporarily making him immune to disabilities and gives them some bonus movement and attack speed. Yar, mateys, now be the time we talk about the salty scourge himself, the king of Bilgewater, Gangplank. Gangplank's passive allows his next melee attack to set the enemy on fire. Savage. His Q lets him shoot an enemy or his barrels. An enemy killed with his Q or barrels earns Gangplank some silver serpents. For every 500 serpents he gets, he can upgrade his ult. I'll get to that in a bit. His W is Remove Scurvy. Similar to Olaf's ult, Gangplank's W removes all negative status effects while healing himself as well. Just eat some oranges, and it's all okay. Now his E is interesting. Gangplank sets down a barrel that has 3 bars of health that tick down to 1 over a short amount of time. You can set up the barrels in a succession to do a chain reaction if you end up hitting one. When you either auto-attack or Q a barrel, that barrel will explode, triggering the other ones, dealing percent health damage to every enemy within its damage area. For his ult, Gangplank calls upon his crew to let out a Hellfire Cannon Barrage anywhere on the map in a circle. You can upgrade his ult 3 times with Silver Serpents, each upgrade costing 500. The upgrades are pretty helpful to the team. Death's Daughter has the initial cannonball hit the center of the circle, dealing true damage. Raise Morale gives your allies bonus movement speed within the circle, and Fire at Will gives you 6 additional waves of cannonballs, thus dealing more damage. This has been the League of Legends Strategy Guide. Please use the practice tools when deciding on which champion to use. We'll see you on the Rift.